everyone, Luke here, and sorry I screwed up. Okay, when I said that thing about Tsukasa in the last video, I was wrong because there he is on chapter 1. I can't believe I actually missed that. And Pie Jams was the one to point it out, so I apologise for saying all that stuff about Tsukasa. Thank God he's not real, otherwise I probably have had his Buster Sword right to my throat by this point. No pun intended. But yeah, that was all that I wanted to get off my chest about the last chapter because it was a huge mistake on my part. Mind you, Pyjans did make a mistake when I was talking about Kohaku and how it tied back to Taiju when Suika revived Senku in New Stone World. So yeah, all mistakes on all our parts, so I guess that's all we need to get out of the way. So now we can move on to talking about chapter 3. And speaking of chapter 3, this is where Tsukasa himself is officially introduced, which is why the title of the chapter is King of the Stoneworld, because obviously he makes himself known as the King of the Stoneworld. Just gonna make myself more visible on my end. So yeah. That's the reference we're going off here. So pretty much starts from the beginning of from the end of the last chapter. That starts off this chapter where they mention like, oh, it's been several millennia since humanity turned to stone. Only 2 high school boys managed to survive, Senku and Taiju. They spent a year so far trying to reset humanity from scratch. Their efforts and the power of science have yielded a fuel that revives the petrified. So I guess from what I'm saying here, this whole narration, this sounds very similar to the narration that happened in the Ryusui special when Kohaku was giving like the recap to everyone to kind of boost their morale. So quite nice touch there. Yeah, pretty much what was actually said when she was talking about Senku and Taiju of how they spent a year together. So very nice touch there from the anime of how we got that reference. So yeah, we call over to Yuzuriya and. Okay, I made the joke about Yuzuriya being the mastermind behind it, but now, again, it's making this even... Seriously, please, can someone tell me how her headband got turned to stone here? And this is the first worldwide petrification, so we don't have... Like, yeah, see, look there, everyone. All those people who had theories of like, oh, there might have been blood that got on her headband, which is why it got petrified. No, it's clearly petrified right there. Is clearly petrified right there. So can someone please explain to me like how that is even possible? Like that's something that's always bugged me about Dr. Stone in general, about what is going on with Yuzuriya's headband. But anyway, that's just a minor nitpick on my part. So so anyway, we continue on with Senku and Taiju figuring out what's going to happen, and Taiju said, "Also, all we need to do is pour this on her, and then Yuzuriya will come back to life, right?" And Senku's like, "Yeah, my tests even broke pieces of stone, turn back into their flesh." So he has this like really sick joke about Taiju's future wife, because anyone who knows the end of the series know that Taiju and Yuzuriya eventually do get married. So yeah, talking about his best friend's future wife coming back with dead flesh on, and Taiju's very right to call him out here, like, yeah, you sickle, yeah, Senku, I know you were a bit of a snarky bastard, but even you have to have moments where it's okay, yeah, you went a bit too far there. So anyway, continuing on, Senku mentions that, yes, I did say that and it was a sick joke, but he's also been trying to stick pieces back together before administering the cure, just in case something bad does go happen. And it's like, oh, Suika is missing a toe with revived, and she's apparently got a toe missing at that point, and it was infallible sacrifice. So he was saying, so a prayer for them, and he's like, and Taiju's like, oh yeah, of course, fine, may their souls rest in peace. And this is where we get like the moment. It's like, oh my god, are they actually going to revive her? Are we actually going to revive her? Before we get what the guy who voices Taiju in the dub, this was according to someone that I talked to before, this was his favourite bit that he dubbed over, where Taiju's like, wait, Senku, Yuzuriya is naked, and just pokes Senku's eyes out, and Senku's like, yeah, and Taiju's like, we can't revive her right here, because once she's like, oh my god, I'm naked, where's all my clothes, what happened, everything like that, oh my god, I'm on with this belly out, like, Taiju is thinking like, very, very prunish here, of just like, yeah, we may be in the stone world with no modern concepts and hardly any clothes, but yeah, we can't see a girl naked at this point. And Senku's reaction to this is just like, really? That's the biggest problem here of why we can't revive more irrational nonsense out there. Who cares about crap like that? We live in the brutal stone world now. Nobody's gonna mind seeing a bare butt or something junky swinging around. Yeah, try saying that to Koku, Nikki, and everyone else who revived Ryusui when he was butt naked, and they were looking at it like, yeah, you're butt naked. Maybe you should put some clothes on. Yeah, Senku, you might want to rethink some of your criteria. But what's funny about this is that, again, just certifies Senku's asexuality, because in the fan book it's mentioned like, yeah, Senku, Taiju, and Tsukasa, they don't wear any underwear in the stone world. So yeah, Senku really doesn't care if your privates are hanging out, especially in the stone world. But regardless of all of that, Taiju has his way. He's like, yeah, but I'm not seeing her while she's naked. And okay, yeah, this is really actually bugging me out, because you see, you guys saw her headband petrified, and now all of a sudden it's paid white. Like, seriously, can't they make their mind up about this headband? Is it petrified? Is it not? Like, I know I keep going on about this, but no, I'm still going to keep going on about it, because, again, it's just one of the biggest mysteries that I found that's just perplexed me about this series. But yeah, anyway, that's besides the point. Taiju lifts up Yuzuriya, and Senku, again, it's just thinking logically here. It's just like, how much does that actually weigh? And Taiju's like, Yuzuriya's not chubby, Senku, don't be saying stuff like that, and that's not besides the point. Before they notice something going on, like they hear voices, or they hear sounds going on around them as they see bright eyes, and they're like, oh my god, there are lions out here, and they're just like, yeah, run away, and they're just questioning like, why are lions out here in Japan? Lions are not native to Japan, so why are they out here? And Senku obviously concludes like they obviously came for a zoo, because when humanity died down, obviously the rusting on fences died down as well, and the animals in the zoos, especially the meat eaters, were like, oh, it's a free-for-all right now, we can go out and take this world for ourselves. And yeah, this has put them in like a really dire situation, because it's like, Taiju might be able to, I guess, wrestle with a lion, but being able to punch it out. Yeah, that's nothing on his caliber. And Senku is a greenhorn, meaning that yeah, he's not physically fit, he's not a fighter. Senku is not a fighter, so there's no way he can take on a lion. So they're just quickly, we gotta get out of here. And yeah, like I said, with no humans around, they must have gone out and preyed on all the zoo herbivores. Pets throughout the sea became an all-you-can-eat buffet basically, and they quite literally became the king of the beasts, or the king of the stone worlds, until a certain someone is about to come along, which is crazy when you see what Tsukasa does the first thing he wakes up. As they go on to say that in this stone world, 3,700 years later, the ones at the top of the food chain aren't humans anymore. So yeah, they kind of work their way back up to not just taking over the world, but also becoming the king of the animals and the king of the food chain. As we see the lion just continually running after them before they're able to just jump off a cliff. And yeah, it's amazing how they're keeping Yuzuriya's statue intact when they're all running away, jumping off cliffs, jumping along rocks, and throwing her all over the place. It's a wonder a piece of her hasn't broken off by now. So anyway, after running away from the lion, it's joined up by its pride. So four female lions, whilst we also have the male lion in the centre here, and Taiju's wondering like, oh, why haven't they instantly attacking them? Because the lions could easily get both of them and just surround them, and then just go after them, gobble them up. And then yeah, science, except for what Chrome actually develops, could would have been dead by then, which is kind of sad when you think about it, because if Senku had died here when the lions, Ruri would have died, Magma would have probably taken over the village, and yeah, it would have been totalitarian at that point, and many of the other characters would have remained petrified. So Senku concludes like, oh, think about them, we're a couple of weird bipedal creatures they've never seen before, which is quite logical because these lions are probably descended from the Sioux lions that came thousands and thousands of years ago, in the same way that it's theorized that the wolves we saw in the first chapter and the dog we saw in the first chapter is probably the ancestor of Chalk the dog from Ishigami Village. That's a popular theory that we've seen. So yeah, these lions are probably like, oh, what are these like shining monkeys, as Senku is come to know by animals? What are these shining monkeys? Who cares about them? Well, are they fresh to eat? We've got to be cautious about them. We don't know what they can do. This is probably what's going through the lions. I'm just trying to add voices to the lions, and just going like, oh, what can we do? Can we eat them? No, let's stalk them, and then when the chance comes, we strike at them. And Taiju again is like, oh yeah, because no other humans are around. Well, it shows how little the lions get around, considering there are other humans around with Ishigami Village and possibly other villages that we just never saw outside of Ishigami Village, something like that. Although, no, we would have seen them by now. But yeah, the lions probably don't get around all that much, considering that Ishigami Village is pretty much not that far away from where they are. Well, it might be far away. We just don't know the time lapse. They could have been traveling for 3 days or 7 weeks. We just don't know. But anyway, the lions obviously didn't get far enough from where Senku is at this point to see the Ishigami villagers, because if they did, although they might have come across them, and because then they would have been attacking Senku and Taiju. Yeah, they obviously never came into contact with the Ishigami villagers, although the villagers knew from the 100 Years Tales to stay away from lions. Like, yeah, they're terrible creatures that could kill in an instant. But anyway, I'm getting completely sidetracked about this point. Senku mentions like, oh, they're being cautious, but it's still only a matter of time. Our only hope are the spears and shields. Like, so he's like, our only hope are the weapons that I crudely put together back at camp. But it's still a crazy far difference to run, and the game will start against us from the very start. Yeah, it's like you're playing on hard mode here, as Taiju just flings Yuzuri's statue again without it breaking, lands in Senku's hands, and Taiju's like, oh, with your scientific mind, you're human's best last hope, Senku. Don't worry about me. I may get mauled, but I can at least take them on. You cannot take them on, so you just get out of here. And Senku's just like, no, but your selling point is physical strength, but you're not a fighter. And Taiju even brings up a good rebuttal to this. It's like, yeah, I may not be a fighter, but I've never seen you throw a punch. I can at least be a brute force barrier to at least get you away, Senku. So yeah, nice time. Although he says, I've never seen you thrown a single punch since elementary school, which makes me wonder, like, what a punch from Senku would actually be. That'll be hilarious, as we see Taiju defended Senku when he was younger, but Senku's just like, oh, think about rationality. I use my head and you use your body. Both are indispensable. But so like, just think about this, Taiju. But also, he's probably thinking like, look, Taiju, if you die now, you won't be able to confess to use Rhea, which is what you want to do. So anyway, continuing on, Senku says like, okay, continue to think about this rationally. When we make our move to run, it's got to be both of us. And Taiju, despite the fact, it's like, oh, but Senku, I want you to get away, but fine, okay, sure, got it. And we get just like this moment of just like Taiju just thinking like, a fighter? No, we're really not. And Senku's a fighter, and Senku's just like, because again, Senku, not the most physical fit. So if you were going to talk about physical fitness, like seriously, Suika is more physically fit than Senku, as there'll be moments in the series that perfectly demonstrate that. And so and Taiju's like, oh, if we really can't shake them off, then there must be another way. And this is where Taiju gets the brilliant idea. Again, Polyjan's brought it up of like, okay, Taiju does have more brilliant ideas than I gave him credit for. So I apologise for that. I know you were waiting for me, Taiju's probably waiting for the moment for me to admit that. Yeah, Taiju has more brainiac moments here because he's remembering like, oh, I can guide Senku over to where Tsukasa is because I know where his statue it is. And yeah, he says, I found this guy on the first day, the strongest primate high schooler, Shishio Tsukasa. So yeah, and again, gotta give Taiju credit that it's like, okay, yeah, even though Tsukasa is famous in Japan and all around the world, as we come to realise when we get to South America, and Stanley and Senior Soldiers are just like, oh, that's Shishio Tsukasa, the strongest primate high schooler from Japan there. So yeah, but there are some people who, despite how famous someone is, they'll be like, who the hell is that person? And it's crazy, and it's nice that at least Taiju is aware of that. So he's at least aware of who people are, to the point like, okay, yeah, I found this person. He can help us out, and he's our best shot at taking down these lions. As he apologises to Yuzuri's statue of the fact that, okay, yeah, we have to put reviving you on hold here, Yuzuri, until we can actually get out of this situation. We'll revive you, we'll be the next person for you to revive, if we can at least win this fight against these lions. And Senku's just like, okay, yeah, the lions are coming, okay, enough of your emotional moment, Taiju. It's sad, yeah, you can't revive your girlfriend, you can't revive your love interest, you can't revive your future wife, but at the same time, this is not the time to, because we've got 5 lions about to round us here. Okay, we gotta get this train rolling on here. There's kind of emergency here. And so just like, okay, yeah, pull it on Tsukasa, as we get the lions just like surround him at this moment, probably thinking like, fresh meat. Yes, they are going to be fresh meat. Ladies, we're gonna have some great supper tonight. That's probably what the male lion is thinking right now. And Senku's just like, I don't really have anything that I can do. Like, this is all I've got, my axe, my trusty axe that I built from stone as my first thing that I did, that I'm going to show to Ryman at the end of the series. But at the same time, it's the only thing I can use now. It's the only weapon I have. And as they're panicking and sweating balls, we see Tsukasa's statue starting to break up. As Taju's like, okay, yeah, I know. This is kind of weird, but just go along with me. You've been asleep for 1,000 years. I know, just go along with me. But right now, there's kind of emergency. You're waking up to something. But Tsukasa being Tsukasa is just like, yeah, what's the situation here? Like, I don't care about the details. You've obviously broke me out for a reason. What is the reason? And Senku's just like, your entire body is covered in stone. There are lions about to attack us. Can you deal with them? And Tsukasa's just like, okay. As we see him just break apart the stone, like he's that strong. He breaks apart the stone, and it just crumbles away from him, only leaving behind fragments on his head that become a staple of his character, along with the scars across his face, which I'm going to get into those scars in a second. Now, about Tsukasa's scars, like, he's got obviously the 2 on his face, and although it's pretty inconsistent, like, sometimes you do see him with the scar on his chest, although I'm going to be looking everywhere to see if that scar does appear or doesn't appear at certain points on his chest. But yeah, the 2 main scars on his face. Now, at first, I was just like, when they brought the war paint in after Treasure Island, I thought Tsukasa had drawn 3 scars on his face, although that might have been Taiju. But I could have sworn that Tsukasa started off with the 3 scars on his face. I could have sworn I've seen an image of that, although that just might be the Mandela effect. But anyway, different from Taiju and Senku scars, but really gives this impression of just probably just like, maybe it was like meant to be a metaphor of just like how he has like 2 sides to him. He has like the charismatic, caring, compassionate person, but also has the murderous, like, I've got an agenda side. I've got an agenda side to me. And yes, Tsukasa has an agenda. For those people who don't like that, I'm sorry, but that's just reality. Tsukasa has an agenda. He doesn't want to bring back corporations and corruption, which is, yeah, it's an agenda. That's what he has. Sorry, I have to bring that up, but based on a certain Twitter activity that we've had recently, the main antagonist for the first part of Doctor Stone has an agenda and he has a goal, and if people don't like that, then they can just get out of this series right now. But anyway, going off on that, moving on from that tangent, it's amazing how the petrification stone perfectly breaks where his junk is, so we can't see his junk. That is very convenient. As we see him just breaking out the stone, Taiju gets lumped with it. The lions get a chunk of it in their faces, so it's like. So it blinds them, as we see Tsukasa just immediately go and punch one of the lions to death. Now people will often say like, oh, that's pretty unrealistic, like for a series that's grounded in reality, that's pretty unrealistic that someone immediately after breaking out of stone would immediately just be able to punch a lion to death. But remember guys, Senku has a vegetable head. Taiju has ungodly strength and stamina, and Senku did count for 3,700 years and keep track of everything and get down the exact date. So yeah, I think we can forgive Tsukasa for punching out a lion, because that just shows how much of a formidable adversary he's going to be. As we see all the lions run away, they're like, yeah, we can't deal with this guy. Let's get out of here while we still have a chance, because he punched to death the male lion. So all the lionesses are just like getting out of there, as Tsukasa is just like, okay, now that that's all settled, I'm ready for the explanation. Just take your time with it. I can take whatever I can right now, because I'm naked in the stone world. Technology is down to the bare minimum. So okay, you can do that for me. You can take your time explaining everything, and I can make one promise to you: you two will never be in danger again. Which, yeah. Too bad you couldn't keep your promise right away, Tsukasa, because Senku didn't agree with you on your ideology. So yeah, keep that in mind for people who are just starting to get into Dot Stun at this point. That is complete bullshit from Tsukasa, and but he does bring up one point here. Yeah, from now on I'll be doing the fighting. Yeah, doing the fight against Senku for the most part, and Taiju just doesn't pay much attention to this, but Senku starts to get like really suspicious at this point, of just like, as Taiju's like, oh, this is great, Senku, now humanity's got brains, bronze, fists, the three musketeers are on the scene, and Senku's just like, hey, I suppose you're right, although we musketeers not having been reinvented yet, this guy is way too strong, this Shishio Tsukasa, or Tsukasa Shishio, and that's where the chapter ends, as we just see Tsukasa just like just charismatic smile, but obviously, yeah, he has a plan right now that he's thinking of, like, okay, we're in the stone world, so I can determine who to bring back and who not, and keep the ones that I deem as inappropriate to be to remain petrified. Which, yeah, it's no wonder why they didn't bring back Ibara and Treasure Island, because it's like, yeah, that guy pretty much proved that Tsukasa's point is right, that there is going to be corruption. So yeah, best just keep him petrified forever. I just had to bring up Ibara again, because he's the only villain throughout the whole series that was never revived. But yeah, that's where the chapter ends. So yeah, not much to really go off on chapter 3. Looking back on it, it's just more of like just introducing Tsukasa and introducing him as the fact that at first you don't know what he's going to be all about, but you get a clear idea of like, yeah, he has other agendas going on besides just being the one that will be the one being in charge of fighting. Like, you can tell right from the moment that he wakes up and everything. It's just like, okay, yeah, there is something going on with this guy, and that keeps the intrigue and mystery of him alive and makes him much more interested. Like which side is he going to be on? Is he going to be on Senku's side? Is he going to be on his own side? And again, like I said, the scars on his face perfectly represent that. Like, you got one half of him being the light, one half of him being the dark, and just that constant fighting balance to keep himself in check. Because Tsukasa is one of those characters that I feel like if push comes to shove, he would push himself over. He would push himself over the edge into familiar territory. But the fact that he's willing to listen to people and negotiate with them at times, and even come to somewhat of an understanding, even though he doesn't agree with them. I feel like that's what keeps him in track and keeps him in balance. But at the same time, it could easily be pushed over the edge. So, yeah, that was chapter 3 of Dr. Stone. Hope you enjoyed revisiting with me. Now, this will given the fact that Shonen Jump's back next week, we're going to be going back to the regular of Mission Curfew. So chapters 4 and 5, like I'm probably going to do 2 chapters at once whenever the break happens with Shonen Jump. So the next one probably won't be around until around Christmas time. So so I might do so. Obviously, I'm going to do chapters 4 and 5 because they obviously we bring back Kyuzuri and we establish Tsukasa's motivation, which has a great foreshadowing moment to what happens to him at the end of the first major storyline with dealing with Tsukasa and his Empire of Might. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But for now, guys, what did you think of chapter 3? Let me know, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasherluke signing off. Later, guys.